This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show. I've got a conversation with Barry Graham Purkis, aka Thunderstick, to share with you. Now, the catalyst for the chat with my mate from the United Kingdom is due to another album. I'm very excited. A new one from Thunderstick. This one is called Lockdown. It'll see light of day later on in 2023, and of course we talk all about that. But Barry is a legend. He's been around for so long. He had a profound impact on the burgeoning new wave of British heavy metal as Iron Maiden's drummer for a 12-month period there through 1977 and 1978. And of course he was the drummer in Samson. That is the group from which Bruce Dickinson left to join Iron Maiden, therefore helping the band become the colossus that we all love them for. Now, if you're listening via Rumble and the podcast apps, I've got a tune to share with you. It's a new version of Go Sleep With The Enemy, I Dare Ya. And once it's done, we'll dive into the chat with Barry. For everybody else, you people on YouTube, let's listen to what Barry has to say right now. Either way, let's go.
Hey!
Here he is, mate. Long time no speak.
Wow, man, how you been? It has been a long time as well. Jesus.
I had to check, actually. You know, it's been almost 6 years to the day since we last caught up.
It's insane, isn't it? It really is. It's flown by.
It talks about how quickly time goes by too, but it also means that, mate, your legacy's established. You've done it, meaning that you had this album, this cracker of an album, come out before Something Wicked This Way comes, and here we are with a follow-up. And that's, I'm not going to necessarily say it's rare, but as you bloody well know, it's hard work.
Yeah, it's hard work. It has been really, really hard work. I mean, how much of it do you want to know about?
I'll put it all out on the table, I think, this time around, mate. Go for it. Wherever you want to start, let's do it.
Okay. So we go back to 2019. Let's go back a little bit further. Something Wicked, 2017. I was never really 100% about it. I thought the musicianship was great. I know that people had mixed feelings regarding Lucie V, who was on it. Some of you really loved it and thought she was great. Others went, not really sure about it and all that. So there was never a live band for that to promote that album ever. When I recorded that album, I had no intention of putting a live band together. And then bit by bit, I thought, you know what? Maybe it is right to put a live band together. So I did that. There were a couple of newbies that came in, which there was Vixen, came with her boyfriend, guitarist, Baz. It soon became quite apparent that, you know what it's like, in this kind of volatile environment, there are a lot of times that partnerships don't work. And they didn't work within the confines of Thunderstick. And not only that, but they had their own band and they had their own agenda, and they were trying to sell their own band on the back of Thunderstick, which really kind of got to me. So we parted company. That was that. I then found I had a friend of mine, Dave John Ross from a band called More. Suddenly called me up and he said, have you seen this vocalist that you might be interested in? Because he knew that I was on the lookout. Anyway, long story short is that I went along and saw Raven, and I just flipped. I was really so impressed with her vocal style, her stage presence, etc. So I offered her a position in the band. She'd never sung. She'd done hard rock, but she'd never done something that was as loud and as bombastic as Thunderstick. So we got together in a rehearsal studio, and it worked out fine. So we go to 2019, and I started putting down the drum tracks for the new album. And I had because it had been 2 years, and I had the intention of release in 2020. And thought, oh yeah, that's great. So it was leading up to Christmas. I put the drum tracks down. I did those not in a proper recording studio because of financial restraints, but in the rehearsal studio that we used to use. And the guy that owned that rehearsal studio, he had a lot of equipment, and he was kind of branching out into recording. So I was one of the first guinea pigs to try out his system, you know. And at the time I thought, great, because it's saved me all kinds of money by doing it this way. But later on down the line, it proved to be a real headache because of ambience and because of spillage on all the mics and one thing and another. You know what I'm talking about. You know, there was no definitive dry signal from any of the drum mics. They were all interspersed and interlapsed. So anyway, we did that. I started doing the bass tracks, and lo and behold, COVID hit. And then suddenly we were, you know, as far as a legal directive, we were all told that we got to stay at home. And we did that. And I just thought, Jesus, how am I going to get this album out? How am I going to finish it? So by that time, I let the two guitarists go because of various issues. And so we were a basic band of three personnel. And that was Rex, the bass player, who'd been with me on Something Wicked, and Raven. And I thought, well, you know, this is good, because in actual fact, it took a lot of pressure off my shoulders to have a band that I was answerable to during a period of inactivity. And so I thought, great, that's fine. That just suits me down to the ground. Anyway, I started looking at the tracks that we got. I recorded the bass digitally and just through software. Unfortunately, yet again, you know that there is no substitute for a mic that is picking up movement of air from a cab to the mic. You know, in rock music, that is paramount. You have to have that kind of feel. But because we weren't able to do that, everything had to be recorded digitally. So we put the bass tracks down. And then I'm thinking to myself, you know, I need to try and look at trying to put a band together now then to get this album done. I wrote to a lot of my friends, and instead of them coming back with recommendations for people that fitted the Thunderstick remit, you know, for the image, for the live stuff, and also for the playing ability, a lot of them offered up their services instead. And I thought, you know, long and hard about it, and thought, you know what, maybe I should do it like this. Maybe I should have because I thought the material I had was really strong. I mean, a lot of it harked back to material that I'd written in the past, but had never seen the light of day, had never been recorded correctly. And also I had started rewriting with Dave Kilford, my ex-guitarist, who was on the Something Wicked album.
Nice.
Anyway, a lot of these guys came back and said, you know what, I can't really recommend anybody, but I would be more than willing to, you know, give you my time. Perfect. And I thought, yeah, perfect. I thought, you know what, let's do this. So I have used numerous guitarists on this album. I am really so pleased with it. I think the material on it is possibly some of the best material that I've ever written. I certainly know that the musicianship on it is really, really strong. And I ended up with, I don't know, a mainstay of about 6-7 different people that have contributed to the album, they all bring their personal styles to it. And at the same time, I was learning Logic Pro. So it was that was a bit of a learning curve for me. You know, I'd spend all day doing stuff, editing, shaving things, and, you know, making it a little bit more precise, etc., etc. And I'd come back the next day and there would be a little message that popped up that these files are unobtainable, and I'd lost everything that I'd done the day. And so it was a real kind of learning curve for me. You know, there were loads of days that were lost, but we got there in the end. Also the fact that a lot of the guitarists, to try and save time, recorded with their effects on. Whereas in hindsight, what I should have asked for is for everybody to record clean signal, and then that way I would be able to, during the mix down, be able to do what I wanted with them. But, you know, we got there. Anyway, it took years and years and years, and it was only a matter of about 2 months ago that I finished the album in its totality. I mean, we've now got an album that I'm really, really pleased with. The other thing on the mix was that I had to try and make it a compound sound, a universal sound, to make it sound like an album, because nobody wants to buy an album and have one track sounding like this and another track sounding completely different. And, you know, as we go through all the songs, it has to be a rounded type of product. And we got there, and I'm really proud of it. In the meantime, I put together a live band. I had 2 new guitarists now, and they are really working well together. They only appear on one track on the album. All the rest of my friends, everybody gets a real good credit on the album. And it's just been it's been a hard journey, but at the same time, it's really been a labour of love, because those people that gave me their time and their ability on the album, I am so grateful to them. I really am. So that's where we are. We've been doing gigs. Next one, we've been out to Poland. We did a show out there that really went well. We've recorded it and videoed it. So hopefully that will be somewhere along the line, I'll be able to put that together and put it out there. We just done a festival last week, which is really good. Next one is France, which will be next month. I think it's the first week in November. Yeah, so, you know, we're taking on work, and the band are going from strength to strength. I mean, Raven has just, her stagecraft and her vocal ability just blow people away. Wherever we play at the moment, they just love her. So, as do I. I mean, it's quite an experience for me each night that we play, from behind my kit, watching her stage persona, because she changes between, you know, we have a storyline within Thunderstick. It's always, as you know, there is a degree of theatricality to it. We've always been like that. You know, I constantly I'd worship at the altar of Alice Cooper. So it's always been good and important for me. And she takes on these different personas throughout the gig, and it's great because you watch the audience reaction to her different personas, and they really love it. I mean, we've now passed, since we last spoke, we've now passed 40 years of Thunderstick, which is insane. It is really insane. Yeah, we did a 40th anniversary show at the Cart and Horses, the birthplace of Iron Maiden.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, plus the fact that, I mean, when Maiden played in London recently, I think in July, we did one of the after parties at the Cart and Horses as well. So, yeah, that was really good.
Is that right? Okay, that's fantastic, bringing things full circle in a way.
Yeah. A lot of people that had been to the Maiden show then jumped on the underground or whatever mode of transport they had, and then they would come over to the East End. I mean, we didn't go on stage till midnight. So they all sort of turned up at our gig and thoroughly enjoyed our gig, which is great. So I can't wait for people to hear this album. We've got a single out at the moment. We've done a single called Go Sleep with the Enemy, I Dare You. And I don't know whether you've got a copy of that yet.
I've been listening to it a fair bit. Actually, I like it. Yeah. And I'll be honest, mate. At first, it was a bit of sacrilege, to be honest, because I thought you did such a great job first time around with Lucie. I didn't think you could improve on it. Now, I'm not suggesting you've improved on it, but you've certainly equaled it, and that's extremely rare.
Thank you very much. That's really, really kind of you, mate. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I was a fan. You know how big a fan I was of the album with Lucie.
Yeah.
I really, I put that flag up really high, and it's still I've got it on vinyl. It's one of the few albums I've bought recently on vinyl, in the last few years on vinyl. Yeah. But it's I wanted to ask you, just in and amongst everything else, your journey hints at the musician's quest in that you're at the head of the band. At what stage? We all want a band to be a democracy, but it doesn't work. So at what stage do you go, I can't do this anymore, and does it become a benevolent dictatorship? And your journey of the last 6 years illustrates that.
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question. That's great. That one came out of left field. It's a double-edged sword. Sometimes the band get it and they understand that. The other side to that is the fact that, yes, it has led me to have various issues with various guitarists, hence the reason that as we started recording the new album, I parted company with two of the guitarists, and it was down to well, I'll give it to you straight. I mean, I should be really truthful with you. One of the guitarists, we were putting down a track of one of the songs that I had written back in the day, a song that I really believed in and was really, really close to me. The reason it was close to me was in the way that we used, or I wrote, I Close My Eyes was all about Jodie and her passing. This track was a track called Hold On Me, was the very last thing that I recorded with Jodie as a demo back in the day. And so it always had a really strong connotation for me. It meant a lot. And we were putting this track down, and he just kind of, the guitarist, who was one of my live guitarists, he kind of just threw his dummy out the pram, and I told him to get over it in no uncertain terms, and he didn't get over it, and he just went and he left. So a shame. But at the same token, it also helped me. It helped me deal with it because, there was a certain amount of angst between he and I. The band is called Thunderstick. I have written on this album on Something Wicked. I wrote all the songs and co-wrote with some, and it's the same on this album. There's an 80% of it of the album are my songs, and the other 20% I've co-written with people. And it's a fine line that as having your own band, it seems to be an acceptable thing if you're a guitarist or you're a vocalist, you're able to have your own band. But a drummer having his own band, hang on, really?
Same with bass playing too, mate. I can tell you, I can assure you, it's the same thing. That people are just rude to you, and they
unless you're Steve Harris or Geddy Lee or someone like that, of course.
Lemming, different story.
Lemming. Lemmy. They seem to think that because we're a rhythm section, we don't really class ourselves as musicians, which is, I have, above everything else, I have always regarded myself as a musician rather than just a guy who hits things. And it's always been really strong to me. I've always written music and lyrics, especially. Anyway, back to your original question. Yes, he went, and then whilst we were in lockdown, the other guitarist that I had taken on, which was had only been I'd taken him on only just before lockdown. He wrote to me, perfectly amicably, and he said, look, mate, I don't really feel as though I'm part of this anymore because all the songs have been already written. You have guitar lines already sorted out for yourself. I'm not really bringing anything to the table. And I said, I totally understand, no problem. He's still on the album. I mean, I've kept his guitar tracks. The first guy that I parted company with, he's not on the album. So I made a clean break of that. But the way it works is that I have two new guitarists now that have been with me over a year, and they accept it. They understand. I take the lead in rehearsal because only I know what I'm looking for. And there comes a stage where you step back from it. Then, okay, I've taken you this far as regards of your musicianship and how I see the arrangement and what you should be doing. Now I'm able to step back from that and just let you guys get on with it. And if you want to put embellishments in that are true to the arrangement and true to the general spirit of the song, I'm not going to stop you. That's great. But if you start overplaying and you start putting in things in that aren't, in my viewpoint, relevant to the song, then I will say so and go, no, I don't want that. I want this. So that's kind of how it is. It's not being arrogant or anything like it. It's just I've been around for many years now, and I just know what I want from a band. And I regularly get together with Raven as well. Her musicianship I never question. I'm one of her biggest fans. I mean, I can't wait for you to hear the album. I really can't, because if you liked Lucie, you'll be blown away by what Raven has put down on this album.
Oh, she's done a great job with something with the single there, the re-recording.
Go Sleep with the Enemy, yeah.
Go Sleep with the Enemy, yeah. One of the things the reason I liked, and I mentioned this to you when we caught up last, was that the dynamic between your drumming. I love your drumming, by the way. I love that shuffle feel that you've got to it. Okay,
Thank you.
The dynamic between that and Lucie's vocal, which is very much that pronounced and proper English style. Okay, that was one of my favourite aspects of the album there, along with killer riffs. The lyrics were insightful. Okay, took you on a bit of a journey as well. What would you say are the strengths then on the newer songs that you've written?
You've just told me what they are. Yeah, the fact that I regard them as killer riffs. I especially with the lyrics, they have a lot of meaning to them, and the orchestration of it. Now I've done a new version of "I Close My Eyes," and I've done a full orchestration version of it, and it's the track itself on Something Wicked was quite simplistic, and its beauty was that simplicity. But I've now done another arrangement of it that, as I've just said, is fully orchestrated. So I would love to hear people's take on what that is. But yeah, I mean, all those things are important to me. Lyrics that actually mean something, songs that actually go somewhere, melody lines that you can actually take away from listening. Once you've listened to the song, you can go, wow, I want to hear that again. And my production on this album actually goes back to earlier stuff. It's such as Echoes from the Analog Asylum. When I put that out in 2011, was all the early recordings. I think with the simplicity that Something Wicked had, a lot of that was intentional, but a lot of it also was the fact that I didn't have a great deal of time in the studio. We mixed it in 2 days. The guitarist and myself sat down and mixed the whole thing in 2 days. And people like yourself came back and said, you've captured that new Wobham simplicity about it, and it was intentional to do that, but also it was financially motivated as well, because I didn't have any more time left in the studio. I had to get it done. Whereas this album, I've been able to spend a lot longer on it because I've been able to sit on my studio stuff here, and I've been able to add and embellish various bits and pieces to it. So it's a different sounding album. I think a little more complex this time, and that's why I love it, because I think it does sound it stands up in its own right.
Can you share the title of the name of the album yet?
Yeah, it's called Lockdown.
Okay, appropriate.
Or not. Originally, well, I had another title for it, and that other title was called Beware the Dark Cabaret Hooligans.
Mm-hmm.
And it ran it ran, well, I'm actually, originally I had some artwork, the same guy has done the artwork for the sleeve, the same guy that did the Something Wicked artwork. And also we did a live album. I don't know whether you heard of that as well. We did a live in France album, and that was called Something Wicked This Way Came, and it's the band live. He did the artwork for that. But the title of Beware the Dark Cabaret Hooligans is a five-word title, and most of my titles, Echoes from the Analog Asylum, Something Wicked This Way Comes, Something Wicked This Way Came, they're all 5-word titles. Mm-hmm. But I think, at the end of the day, the artwork's phenomenal as well for the new title, Lockdown. I think that Lockdown became a lot more relevant because of everything that was recorded. I mean, all the guitar tracks, as I said, have been done just by plugging straight in DI and using software. So, and that was as a matter of course because of Lockdown. I mean, it was awful, wasn't it? I mean, I'd also, the other side to all that is, I don't know how you find it, but coming out the other end of it, I find the music industry has changed dramatically. It's just something that these days I don't really recognise. I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to stuff like that, because I hark back to the day, when you would, once upon a time, a person would step out of the shadows and go, you know what, boys, I'd like to manage you. And then that manager would then hopefully get you a publishing deal to give you a little bit of money for yourself, and he would hopefully get you a record deal to be able to afford an advance and put together tour support and just general artist development. That doesn't exist anymore. That kind of world, the Iron Maiden kind of world, the way that they have progressed, it doesn't exist anymore. And I feel really sorry for bands, because it's great in some respects that you have DIY musicians who will put together an album in their bedroom, and they will be able to sell it online, because of what do they call it? Oh Christ, what's the name of it? Algorithms.
Oh yeah, the algorithms.
Yeah. And your viewing audience on YouTube and all that. We lost out on a big gig because our algorithms didn't tally up, and we didn't have as many YouTube.
That's how it's done these days. You're right. You're spot on. It's all about the audience. I write books as well, and publishers won't talk to you unless you've got 80,000 Facebook followers as an author.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well.
But it sucks.
It's not about, I don't even care if they want to develop the artist anymore, but at least bloody take a chance and at least have it as a part of your stable so that people can stumble across it or something. But just saying to artists, okay, like especially you with your legacy, that's nuts. So you were a very early member of Iron Maiden. Of course, there's Samson. You're an integral part of Bruce Dickinson's career. There's some cachet there with you. Anybody with any marketing now, if you wanted them to go that way, would say, here's the bloke who was there at the very beginning, at the Cart and the Horse, with Steve Harris. He was also in a band with Bruce Dickinson. This is what he's been doing for the past 40 years, on and off. But the key point is the strength of your material. It's there. Okay, but these bloody all these festivals and stuff, they got them here too, mate. And I don't play that game. That's why I still play covers and play to people drinking on Friday and Saturday nights, because it just annoys me too much, mate. Yeah.
Well, I haven't had a rant. I put together sleeve notes for the new album, and I just got things off my chest. And I talk about things like that, and I think it's important that people like you that understand it all. You will take the time to sit down and you will read the sleeve notes, and hopefully it's something that you will be able to connect with. I mean, we are in an age where mimicry rules. I can't go out and get a gig, or I get a gig where they say, no, we can't afford that, we can't afford to pay you that, and yet they will take on an Iron Maiden tribute band called High on Maiden or Ion Maiden or whatever they're called, and they practice the art of mimicry. You'll get them, they'll try and dress the same as whatever era they're covering of Iron Maiden, and they'll use the same instruments. The bass player will have a Fender, whatever, Precision or something.
Bass with the West Ham sticker on it.
Yeah, all that, and they'll emulate parts of the show as well. They're obviously budget allowing. They can't have bloody great big huge Spitfires or whatever, but they will try and emulate part of the Maiden show, and the drummer will even have his kit decorated in Iron Maiden, regalia. And I don't get it. I really do not get it. And part of the problem I have with my own band is that I have to be really careful about which gigs that I take on, because all four members of my band are out there doing their solo stuff. Raven, for example, she will do gigs that pay well with backing tapes, and she'll sing, she'll sing soft rock and
I do the same,
AOR, all that kind of thing. And I say to them, can we get together to rehearse? My band, I'm never going to get them squeaky clean tight, because none of them can afford me that time to be able to do that. Yeah. I mean, it's different. You go back to the day when I was paying a retainer wage to my band, we would get into rehearsal and we would rehearse and rehearse and rehearse to get it super tight, so that when we did go out on a show, people go, wow, they were really together. They were really tight. I can't do that with my current band, and so there is a kind of looseness within our performance. But I've also noticed that there's some people really like that looseness. They like that, it's like a Rolling Stones mentality, where it kind of saunters along in places, and sometimes it doesn't feel quite right, and other times it's smack on the timing and what have you. And the main reason for that is because I can't get everybody in a rehearsal studio at the same time, because sorry, I'm gigging that night, and oh no, I've got to do this, and I mean, Rex is with two bands. He does an Ozzy Osbourne tribute band.
Yep.
And he also has a covers band. Pete, one of my guitarists, likewise. The only other person that's in the band that doesn't gig outside of Thunderstick is Dave, the other guitarist, and that's just by choice, because he doesn't want to do that. He has full-time employment, and that gives him a wage, so he doesn't have to go out and do that.
This is his fun. This is where he gets his outlet from, where it sounds like the other ones are trying to earn money from playing music, which means you've got to spread yourself very thin. But it's the same here, mate. Yeah, and you raise a really good point there about the tribute shows. I was just recently talking to a bloke who asked me if I'd join. He didn't sort of ask me to join, but he sort of put it out there that there was an opportunity for this Slipknot cover thing.
All right.
And I've seen the videos. There's like 200 people in the same venue, where we as a covers band get about 40. Okay, so it's a fan-driven thing for some reason, whether it's nostalgia or whether they want to hear and they want to see, exactly to your point there, whether it's the Iron Maidens, the female tribute show, they want to see them do the same moves that they've seen a few times in the videos. It is so weird, and being 45, I must have grown up in a different era than what's coming out now, these millennials and stuff that are coming through, these Gen Ys and Zs and all the rest of it, that seem to want, like, I call it the digitization of performance.
That's it. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I like you, I don't get it. I mean, you're what, 45? I'm old enough to be your father. I'm 70 next year. I mean, but I don't get it. I just don't understand it. And it is fan base driven to the point that they will have now mega festivals that comprise of all tribute bands.
Covers and tributes, yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I just think, why don't you want to go and see what an artist has actually managed to do? He's actually composed these songs that you're standing there listening to. You know, don't you understand that that's what music is about? You know, originality and putting the heart and passion into composition rather than emulating somebody that you've seen on stage. I don't understand it.
But potentially you raised another good point, which was that things changed markedly throughout COVID. And part of the issue there was right across the Western Hemisphere, we had this authoritarian overreach, which was locking people into their bloody abodes. So like what was going on in Victoria and Melbourne. And people got used to consuming content via screens, and it changes people. It rewires your synapses, okay? People didn't go out there it was all told it was consistently people didn't go out for about 18 months across the Western Hemisphere, okay? Yeah. And parts were like, we weren't too bad here, but certainly I didn't play a gig for 6 months. I can tell you that for a fact. There was no bands allowed. It was social distancing, all of the bullshit, you know. But it's had an effect of social conditioning, and there's all these unintended side effects or consequences.
Repercussions,
yeah, repercussions. Yeah, it's a better way of describing it, where people now want these types of shows that you're talking, that we're both saying, hang on, what the hell is going on here? Now, well before COVID, this was a change that was kicking in before COVID. It just accelerated it, because I can tell you for a fact, mate, the guys in Dragon Force, they're in a System of a Down cover band. I had to double check is that the case? Yeah, sure. Richard Shaw from Cradle of Filth, I think, plays in one of those bands as well, where they do either a ghost tribute or something at the moment. So this tribute stuff, this cover stuff is big business. It's fan-driven as well as agent and fan-driven. We know that. Yeah. But when you've got a great band and a great outfit like what you are and like what you have, and for somebody like me, this is like manna from heaven, an artist that I read about through the late 80s and early 90s. Now you're back and your legacy's intact because you're keeping on going. This is brilliant. But to be honest, mate, the chances of me seeing you in Australia are slim to virtually bloody none. I'd have to go to the UK.
It would never happen, because you would never be able to get a promoter that would be willing to actually take that chance. And he's thinking, maybe if I turn around and said, well, I'm doing a set of all Samson material, maybe that would be a way. But they're like, why should I have to do that?
No, I know. I was going to mention that. No, I'm with you, mate. Believe me, but there's because of your legacy. One way of getting around it all is to actually embrace it. And given the fact that you played Iron Maiden songs, that you were part of, you probably helped write some of the early Iron Maiden material that made it onto the debut. And you definitely wrote some of the Samson stuff. You were a part of that. If you incorporated that into the set list, you'd have something that may be very attractive to some of these promoters.
Well, when we did the 40th anniversary show, one of the guitarists, the guitarist that was in Maiden when I was in Maiden, a guy called Terry Watram, he's on the album, by the way.
Oh, great.
He got up and did a couple of tracks. We did Running Free and Drifter. And that was great. That was really good. I'm playing Samson stuff in my set as well. It's not all Thunderstick. I open up with Riding with the Angels. We have of late been doing Too Close to Rock, which is off the Head On album. Earth Mother, of course, we're doing that. So that's still in the set. But you're right. It has been a process of reconditioning people. I think that's a very, very valid point, that you're saying that people would still get their entertainment through a screen because they were in self-isolation. And promoters will only take a chance because they know that your general Joe down the road, he wants to come and sing along sing along a Maiden or sing along a Ghost or whatever you say. You know, Ghost not so much, because I think that they're a lot more of a kind of niche band. Maiden, obviously, because there is so much back catalogue and so much history that tribute bands have got a plethora of material that they can play. But the covers bands, promoters they love it. They jump at a chance for the covers band because they know that people want to get a few drinks down their neck and they can sing along to all the songs that they recognise. Why do I want to go out on a Saturday night, get pissed and listen to a band that I don't know what their material is and I can't sing along to it? No, don't want to do that. I'd rather go and, you know, that's the way it is.
You've described a lot of my 20s right there, but it's gone. You're right. Those days are over. I guess we can rage against it, or we can just embrace it and deal with it.
You have to.
Look, I'll probably will end up playing in this Slipknot tribute show or what have you, but it's another gig to me. Whether I'm playing Patrice Russian's Forget Me Nots or playing a Slipknot song, to me, it's all done on one of these two behind me, or mainly the bass. But it just gets to a point where, as long as you're playing, very different for you though with your legacy. But just on that, have you booked shows? So when lockdown is released, have you got some shows around the UK that you're going to be performing to promote it?
Yeah, we definitely will be. I mean, there are a couple of things that I can't talk about because they're in the pipeline. You know the deal. And you know, if I now talk about it, it might jeopardise the fact that we may not get it. But sure. Yeah, we've got a few festivals. We are going to go back to Poland next year, so that's good. And I want to promote it as much as I can, but only we're financially viable. I mean, we don't make huge amounts of money from Thunderstick. We're lucky if we get $150, say, or something like that each person out of a gig, no matter what size the gig is. I mean, it's got to the point now where bands are not able to make, and I'm talking about grassroots bands now, they're not able to make money at a grassroots level. And so the knock-on effect is that you will get venues closing down because of that, unless they're prepared to change and put these tribute cover bands on, whatever you want to call them. So that you can't make money like that. So it got to the point where the only way you could make money as a band would be through merch, selling merchandise. Yeah. But even now, the bigger gigs are now charging you money to take a cut of your merch income. And so yet again, that cuts down what the band might earn. It's insane. It really is. I don't recognise it at all, Andrew. I really don't recognise the music world that we live in these days. It's crazy.
We've talked a lot about that recently. Yeah, sorry, just on that point that you talk about with the merch. Look, I wouldn't be selling merch. I don't do this, so I'm only talking philosophically here, but a way to get around it potentially is to put a QR code up on the behind you underneath a real T-shirt or whatever the merch item might be. Click here to order. It'll be at your home within a fortnight, that sort of thing. Yeah. Selling them, these bastards in the venue industry who are already making a fortune from the alcohol tab are just trying to dip their wick twice on that one there. Yeah. The only way you're going to make money, to your point, if you're getting paid $150, I mean, you might have $150, man. I know that's a lot of money to some, but let's face it, it's not a lot of money. It'll pay half of your gas bill or your electricity bill for the quarter or something, is what I'm saying. If it's there or it's not there, it won't make too much of a dent for you. But the merchandise sale, as you know, mate, if you're selling 20 or 30 T-shirts per night plus a keyring and a cup or something like that, or all of your back catalogue is digitized on a USB stick, this sort of thing, and it gets sent to people. That's the way. It's investigated. I'm sure there's a model out there that you can plug into that somebody's already doing that for bands like that stage that you're at. But look, that's the way I'd be doing it, mate. Otherwise, you're just not going to make any money.
The festival that we did last week, I bought a card reading machine for us. And we did just that. We put together a QR code, and anybody that wanted to pre-order the Go Sleep with the Enemy single, just as you say, just had their phone and they were able to scan the QR code and they bought the single. I mean, we were selling the single at £1.50. So, I mean, and that's with the artwork as well. But it's just, it just gets harder all the time. It really does. Trying to keep a band out there gigging. I mean, look, we haven't even touched on the streaming. Oh God, streaming!
There's no money in that because you're not on. Something wicked this way comes is not on Spotify.
Is it not? Well,
no. I mean, look, you get 3/5 of bugger all for it being on there, but look, you might as well get the 5 cents per quarter or whatever. The bugger all per quarter. But I mean, as you know, I've got a CD as well. I originally put it out on Bandcamp, and that's right.
But streaming, I don't think music has. It hasn't got the importance that it used to have for people of our generation. I can remember queuing up outside, as a youngster, queued up outside a record shop waiting for a particular album to be released and waiting for them to open up. And we've got them in stock now. There you go. You buy your album, you go home, you meticulously read through all the credit notes and where it was recorded and who and the special thanks to, whilst listening to the album. That made it really special. Kids of a new generation, they don't look on music as important as that. And that is why streaming has become that kind of, it's a throwaway, disposable, it's a disposable, music is a disposable product item. And that's the way it is, I've listened to that a few times. Now, bin that, get rid of that, and put this on,
Yeah. So the Spotify CEOs talked about how it's not about releases for musicians; it's about content. And I hate to admit it, he's actually spot on. And that's just the way that the model's going. That doesn't, the old thing about don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, it's impossible to hate the game if we've all got to bloody participate in it. When an artist like you has got to participate in it, and that's all because of, and you've already mentioned it, the algorithms that are out there. I find it with my podcast too. I've got how many followers on Facebook? I don't know. It's a couple of thousand and a bit less on Instagram, and certainly on YouTube there's a couple of thousand there. And I can tell you for a fact, because I've studied social media and social media marketing, okay, even with that built-in audience there, a fraction of that, because I don't throw money at the algorithm. I'm not paying YouTube, Facebook or Instagram, so Google, Meta, and I don't know about Twitter these days or X with Elon. That's a bit of a different kettle of fish. But only a fraction of the people that have subscribed will see a new post. Only a fraction. And that's by design, because to unlock the rest of your audience, forget about new people, your existing audience, you've got to throw money at it. So it's
and also time. You have to sit there and religiously, day in, day out, just sit behind a screen and allocate that time to it to be able to do that. So I'm never going to, our fan base is never going to grow to a point where to a level that I would like it to be. We're always going to be that, we're going to have that little niche, and that's about it. The people in the know will like Thunderstick and will attend gigs and what have you. But I will never, ever be able to make that grow unless, as you say, I have the time or the finances to be able to do that. And I have neither. So it sounds like I'll come on here and just moan incessantly about everything. What is terrible about music these days. At the end of the day, though, the music is, for me, everything. It really is. And it's about guys like you. I mean, I finish our gigs whenever we play a gig, and I come down front and I grab the mic, and it's Rex on bass and blah blah blah, etc. etc. I always end up by saying to the audience, not only a big thank you to you supporting Thunderstick, but also a huge thank you for getting out here and supporting live music. Because that's what it's all about. Forget Thunderstick. We're really pleased you're here and you love what we do. But you're here actually doing a good service by just being here and supporting live music.
Yeah, we're a global
live original music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're definitely a global cohort that support each other in that respect. I've been doing this 6 years now, and I find it doesn't matter whether I'm talking to people in Great Britain or the US or whatever country it might be, parts of the Eastern Bloc. Poland's a great country. I've done a few interviews with artists from there in the last 12 months, and we're all cut from the same cloth, us muso types, okay? And we want to support the bands, and it's just a matter of finding a way to connect with each other. And generally speaking, there's that network, so it's almost gone underground again, even though it's in plain sight. It's almost gone underground again. Darren sending me the updates, this sort of thing. It's just finding people who do podcasts. I wish there were more podcasters. I wish there was more quality podcasts, no doubt. But just even having people to talk to you and to share your story would get it out there. And but mate, it's I've said it a few times on the show already too. I just feel like rock and metal and extreme metal, it's all dad music these days. The younger generation, they're interested in K-pop and J-pop, and they couldn't even tell you a rock band outside of maybe Green Day or Bon Jovi, and that's because it was on an ad once.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, definitely. I mean, which makes it even more unbelievable the way that Iron Maiden have actually managed to build their fan base to such an extent now. It's quite incredible. That because the older generation are now taking their kids because of the imagery. It's it's the imagery. It's not about the music, I don't think, anymore. I really think it is about, with Iron Maiden, and I probably got shot down in flames for saying so, it is about the imagery now. They put so many people go along because they want to see the huge, great big eddies, and which makes me laugh because originally, before I left Samson, there was really we had quite an altercation I had with the rest, especially Bruce. There was quite an altercation about I wanted the theatricality in the band to continue. Albeit it was a bit Spinal Tap, the fact that I played inside a cage and we would turn up at several gigs that could never get the cage in through the front door, so it could never be used. But I mean, there was quite a difference of opinion between Paul, Bruce, and myself. Because all the time music journalists wanted to talk about Thunderstick and the image of Thunderstick rather than Samson. And I just find it somewhat amusing. I have a wry smile every time that I see the way that Bruce performs on stage now, and the use of masks, and on the new tour he's firing cannons at a bloody huge great big Eddie. And I mean, for somebody who went, it's not about theatre. I'm not interested in that. And we played the Marquee. One of the last gigs I did was the Marquee show, and he went on wearing a pair of jeans and a rugby shirt. So I find it quite amusing. But there you go.
Oh, I haven't listened to them
Who do I know? I'm playing to 150 people at the very most down the road, and they're playing to 150,000 people. So what do I know?
Oh, I was a massive Maiden fan back in the day in the 90s. I just don't listen to them now. Maybe I got inoculated and just listened to them too much, like the Metallica thing. I just couldn't be bothered these days. And I've got some shit online and from some people even saying that and pointing out that I think their only decent single post Seventh Son is only decent is the A Matter of Life and Death album where they had Benjamin Brigg on that. But I just can't get into anything else. Oh, yeah, it's a brilliant song.
That's the one track that really jumps out at me. I thought, wow, that is really good.
Well, that's why we're similar, mate. Yeah, I feel the same way. But I copped it from the peanut gallery as you do when you say Maiden. Anything else except for Maiden rules or Metallica rules, mate. They can't hack it. The peanut gallery. So you talk about something else there too, about the intergenerational side of things too, and that's actually precisely where it's at. That's why Motley Crue have come back, and more power to Phil and Def Leppard too. Those guys are powering on, and Scorpions. The Motley Crue are absolutely awful, but the other bands, the British bands, tend to be able to have kept it together probably better than a lot of the American bands, I've got to say, in particular on the membership front. They've held on to a lot of the members, whereas the American bands, it's sort of, you look at Foreigner where they've got one or maybe no original members anymore, and there's a lot of that stuff, but there's just a lot of money in it.
I mean, I know quite a few people who went and saw Whitesnake, and they just were horrified that Coverdale wasn't singing the melody lines that he used to sing throughout the whole of his career, and it was all handed over to some. I think it was a female keyboard player or something like that.
Oh, well, he's got a Croatian singer in behind him these days. I think Ghosting. I think. I remember reading that, and he's got other members doing it, but. Yeah, it's a shame. And look, unfortunately, I've got to wrap things up. I'm sorry, mate. I really would love to continue the chat because we always have such great conversations. But
we do.
What I'd like to do is
let's do it again in another 7 years, eh?
Well, I hope it's a lot sooner. I hope it's in a couple of months' time.
That would be great.
After you've done some. Just, reach out whenever you want to have a chat, mate. I feel like, you and I can talk for hours about things and off topic and on topic, and we can keep it sane the entire time. So, look, anytime you want to have a chat, mate, and promote things and just talk about music in general, mate, just reach out. I'll always have a chat to you.
That's great, Andrew. Thank you so much, mate. I've really enjoyed it, as always.
Well, there you have it, a conversation with Barry Graham Purkis from Thunderstick, formerly from Samson and Iron Maiden as well. There are so many topics that we could dive into. I really look forward to round 3 with Barry. I certainly hope it isn't in 7 years' time, but if it is, so be it. I'll just look forward to it then. All right, so there are many more chats like that one over at scarsandguitars.com. And you people in the know, you know that I've written a book. For those of you that don't, well, now you do know too. Check it out by clicking the link in the banner on the website. Go to a marketplace of your choice. You know the rest. You can always download a sample. Just please hit me up and let me know what you thought of the book and leave a review. All those things are important. They help fight the algorithm, bring more good news stories from the world of hard rock, heavy metal, extreme metal and beyond to the people. There's some more information to share with you about the book, but before we get to that, I'll bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it's a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
If you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very, very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
My name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Trey Exagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.